Well, shalom, shalom. Welcome back to the channel. You are tuning in to part 2 of the love story between Jen and Daniel. And if you listen to the first part, you will understand how I met Daniel and when we first started dating. That was the first half. So if you haven't watched that, you may want to go back and watch that before you watch this video. But if you're somebody who likes to read the back of the book first and hear how it ends, you might want to watch this video first. So either way is good. I'm glad that you are tuning in. So one thing I forgot to tell you that I think is very relevant, when I was explaining to you how when Daniel and I started talking that he was concerned about just some of the details of my situation, that I was 51 years old, that I had 4 kids, 4 dogs, that I was divorced. These were not conditions that he had, or characteristics that he apparently had envisioned for his future dating and bride. So, which, I don't think anyone ever does say, oh, I'm gonna either get divorced or I'm gonna marry someone who's divorced and has kids if you don't have kids. So these are all interesting points. And I also knew that Daniel, I didn't know exactly how old he was, but I knew that he was in his 30s. So it turns out Daniel is 32. So he's like 20 and a half years younger than me. So he's 32, I'm 52. And so, that was the other reason why he said he wanted to have kids, because, he's at a different stage of life than I am. And so I understood that. So he apparently, had talked about this with other people, and they were just like, this is not a big deal. Why are you making it a big deal? And I think that probably helped him to come to that conclusion. But I'll let him tell his story. But I know the Lord was working on him just in terms of like his expectations and kind of just thinking outside the box a little bit, that sometimes our perfect spouse doesn't come all wrapped up in a neat package the way we think that this person is going to. He had been waiting a really long time to find someone to date and to have a spouse. And I had been waiting, within 3 years. I really knew I wasn't ready until the past year before I started dating him. So it was about a good year or so that I had felt ready to start dating after my divorce, because I had needed some time to heal. So we started dating, and our first date was to Panera. So we went to Panera one night. We had planned to go to the Lifetime gym where he went, and we were going to go swimming. And that was kind of our plan for the night, and we were going to have dinner. And you might be thinking like, oh, that sounds kind of like a crazy date or whatever, but I love swimming, and it's hard to find a place to swim in October. So we just decided that would be really fun. And so we did. We had a great time at dinner, and we had a great time at the gym. And we really hit it off. And he had told me that that he had never kissed anybody before, and that his dad had told him when he was growing up that you're supposed to save your lips for your wife. And so I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And I really respected him for that, and we're both Christians. So obviously we agreed that we were going to wait till marriage to do anything sexual, of course. But we were just starting to date. But we had already put that on the table, like, there's no funny business going to be happening. But in my mind, kissing was not off the list. And so let's just say that we had a few kisses that night. He had his first kiss. I didn't tell him he had to or whatever. He just decided that he wanted to. So it was a really good date. Let's just say that. And our second date, we did end up going to the John Crist concert. That was early November last year. And that was really fun. And I was basically telling him, I'm like, yeah, I would not have gone to this if we were just going to be friends. If you hadn't wanted to date, I'm like, I probably just would have given you the ticket and told you to go with someone else. He's like, well, I'm really glad that we didn't have to do that. But we went for sushi, and then we went to the concert, to the comedy show. If you've seen John Crist, he's hilarious. So we did that. Yeah, and the rest was kind of history. We spent time together, like on Mondays and Fridays when we were at Shy Hop, and we would see each other on the weekends, and he would come over maybe once or twice during the week. It started out slow, but we just realized we really enjoyed spending time with each other, and we just had a lot of fun together, and we laughed a lot together. And so we wanted to hang out a lot. It was really fun to be with him. And so I ended up meeting his brother and sister-in-law and their kids, and eventually ended up meeting his parents. And then I think this was after Thanksgiving. We might have seen the brother and sister-in-law before Thanksgiving, but we spent Thanksgiving together, and he likes to cook, so we really had a great time cooking on Thanksgiving and just making a lot of yummy foods, and we like a lot of the same things. And I choose usually to eat vegan, and I'm sensitive to eggs, he's sensitive to eggs, so we don't eat eggs, and the list goes on. We like smoothies, the whole 9 yards. So we just spent a lot of time together, and we just knew that we were falling in love with each other. And so my birthday was the beginning of December, and so we obviously hung out for that and spent time together. And he had met my kids. I'm trying to think, 2 of my kids. He might have met them on the FaceTime or something, maybe one other time before my birthday. But then we all went out for my birthday, and then, yeah, I think they had met him a couple different times. And so then, yeah, I met his parents like mid-December or something like that. And we had been talking about marriage. When you know, especially if it's not your first marriage. We knew we both wanted a kingdom marriage, meaning we're both Christ followers. God was in the middle of our relationship. It felt right. We were very attracted to each other on all levels, and we just knew that it was right. And so we started talking about marriage, and we really didn't know what that was going to look like. But we were kind of thinking around Christmas time. So we ended up picking out a ring, and it was really beautiful. And the ring had to get sized. And this is another, I think, just God thing that happened. There were lots of God things, of course. I can't even remember all of them. But the Lord had made it possible for my ring to come back. It got sized, and if we had to send it out, but he made it possible for the ring to come back in a faster time than we had been told. And we ended up deciding, we were asking the Lord, when should we get married? When should we get married? We knew we wanted to have a beach. We knew we wanted the beach to be part of our wedding, but we knew it was going to be really hard to go down to Florida, which is my happy place, and get married on the beach. We didn't know who was going to marry us. And we just thought it'd be really hard to bring all of our immediate loved ones or friends down to Florida. It'd be really expensive. My kids, everybody. So we just knew it would be difficult. So we're like, how can we get a compromise? I have to have the beach, but we also wanted to have our friends and family. And so what we ended up deciding to do was we decided to elope. We got married at my house on December 23rd. And the reason we did that was just because the Lord told us that we had a choice. We had a choice, and we pondered it, and we thought we were going to wait till January, and then we just decided, we're going to get married and have a simple ceremony. And we asked our pastor to marry us, and we had a couple friends come as witnesses, and it was a really fun night. And then we had a ceremony towards the end of January, on January 20th. So we had it at my church that I had been going to. And so we invited all of our friends and families, and it wasn't like a humongous gathering, but it was like a smaller, intimate gathering. But it was the traditional wedding that I knew I wanted to celebrate with friends and family and my kids. And then we had planned to go to Hawaii for our honeymoon. And so we decided to hire a professional photographer to take pictures, not only at the wedding ceremony, but then when we were in Hawaii. I hired a photographer, and she took pictures on the beach of us in our wedding attire. So we brought our wedding attire on the plane, and it was so cute because we fly Southwest. And so we're on the plane, we're getting on the plane, and they see me carrying my big garment bag with my dress. And they're like, oh, you guys getting married? And we're like, yeah, we're on our honeymoon, and we're gonna take pictures on the beach. And so they what do I want to say? They recognized us on Southwest during the flight. They recognized us, and they honored us, and they said congrats, and everybody clapped, and they gave us a bottle of champagne. And it was really sweet. And we still actually have the champagne. We still haven't drank it. So I think we're going to drink it for our 1-year anniversary. We're going to celebrate with that. But we took that to Hawaii. We had a wonderful week. We were in Waikiki. It was wonderful. We did some sightseeing. Daniel had never been there. I've been to Hawaii now 3 times, but he had never been there. And so we stayed in Waikiki and just did a lot of beach stuff. And we did a little bit of rock climbing, interestingly enough, because he really wanted to do that. I, of course, wanted to do the beach. And we did a luau. We were going to go to, oh gosh, what it's called. It'll come back to me. There was the naval site thing, Pearl Harbor. We were going to do Pearl Harbor, but we ran out of time. So we didn't do that. But we did a kayaking trip one day, I think on the last day. So we clearly needed more time. We were only there a week, but we needed like at least 2 weeks. But it was great. And so yeah, it was a wonderful time. And our pastor was so sweet. I mean, he kept saying, you're going to get to know each other more and more. You're going to fall in love more and more every day. And I really do think that's true. That's really been the case. And so I was living in my house, but because I worked out of my house, and I had a contract, it was just supposed to be me and the dog. So he couldn't live at my place, and he was living at his place where he lived. And so what we ended up doing was deciding that we were going to wait to see what the Lord wanted to do as far as where we were going to live. Now, of course, in my heart, I was really hoping that we were going to go to Florida, but we were praying about it. And so really from January to April, we didn't know. He flew down with me to the prophetic conference that I always go to at my church here in Fort Lauderdale in April. So the end of April, he came down with me. He had never been down here. He'd never been to my church, never met my friends down here. So he came down with me. It was great. We looked at some places. And interestingly, during the conference, the Lord had told me, he had given me a word one morning, and told me that I was going to meet a wonderful Christian realtor. And I was like, okay, Lord. And I didn't really know who it was going to be. So one day we're doing a prophetic exercise, and I'm talking to these 2 ladies, and I knew the one lady, and at the end, but I didn't know she was a realtor. And at the end of our conversation, she hands me, I told her we were moving down here, and she hands me her business card and said, hey, if you need any help, I'll be happy to help you. And I was blown away, just at the goodness of the Lord, confirming what he had told me. And I mean, that just fell in my lap. I mean, everything just it's hard to explain, but everything literally just kept falling in our lap. I was not actively, trying to make things happen or things coming to me. It just fell in my lap. And so we decided that we were gonna have her give us some ideas. So we went back home, and literally we ended up flying back down a week later. 2 weeks later, we flew back down. 2 weeks later, early May, and we looked at some apartments and places down here, and we really knew that we were supposed to be here, but there was this whole question of, well, where are we going to live? But you really have to, yeah, as you know, if any of you have moved or gone places that you've never been before, you have to kind of get acclimated to the area. Like, we had never, you know, lived down in Florida. I've never lived out of state, neither has Daniel, so we didn't really know where do we want to live. But we both kind of operate from the standpoint of we can kind of feel how things are in the atmosphere. And so we knew certain places that we looked at felt better than others, and we actually found one that we really liked, but it ended up where we didn't get it. They wanted some kind of a higher credit score, and it didn't work out. And that's a whole nother testimony, which I'm not going to go into right now, about the whole living situation. But needless to say, we got down here, and that was, you know, the start of us living together and being married. We moved down here June 20th. We got down here like the 21st, I think, something like that. And yeah, so finally we were together in one place with my dogs, and it was wonderful, and it's been wonderful. But that's a whole nother story as far as being here at the hotel and married life. But that was kind of our fast engagement, and just the Lord's been with us every step of the way. There's been a lot of warfare, but that's just been, you know, so if any of you have ever had a fast engagement, you know, it's just, you know how it is though. When you know, you know. And the Lord picked him out. I don't think it could have worked any other way. He selected us for each other, and we just know that it was meant to be. So I hope you're blessed by this story, and until next time, shalom, shalom.